Father, your daughter chooses the Chen family. On the day when the Marquis of Ronghua Mansion and the merchant Chen family both sent matchmakers to propose marriage, when my legitimate sister passed over the heir of the Marquis of Ronghua and instead chose the disfigured and disabled young master of the Chen family, I knew she had also been reborn, because, in my past life, I was the one who was married into the Chen family, in the previous life. The Marquis of Ronghua's household and the merchant Chen family sent matchmakers to propose on the same day. My elder sister, relying on her status as the legitimate daughter, snatched the marriage with the Marquis of Ronghua's household and mocked me, saying I only deserved to marry a disabled man reeking of money. Unexpectedly, the heir of the Marquis of Ronghua's household had someone he truly cherished and did not take my sister, his lawful wife, seriously. My father, who relied on the Marquis's influence, made her endure it again and again. In the end, my sister was publicly humiliated and dominated by that concubine, losing all face, and I, having married into the Chen family for only a year, saw the young Master Chen meet a divine healer. His legs were cured, and his appearance remained flawless. Later, it was even discovered that he was the prince born of the late empress. Back when the emperor was contending for the throne, the late empress, to ensure the prince's safety, sent him out of the palace. He eventually ended up with the Chen family, becoming their injured young master. Now, after he was recognized and returned to his lineage, the emperor, to make up for the past, even declared his intention to crown the young Master Chen as the crown prince. My legitimate sister, upon hearing the news, came to stay in my courtyard under the pretense of congratulating me, but she set fire to my yard, killing me. And she herself did not escape either. When I opened my eyes again, I found that I had returned to the day when both families came to propose marriage. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Father, I choose the Chen family. My legitimate sister is the cherished darling of my father's heart. How could he bear to let her forsake the wealth and status of the Marquis's household to marry that crippled young master reeking of money? At once, his face darkened as he scolded, "Nonsense! Since ancient times, marriages have been arranged by parental orders and matchmakers' words. How can you act so recklessly?" The legitimate eldest sister was not afraid of her father's dark-faced scolding. She clung to his arm and cooed, "Oh, father, you love your daughter the most. Just indulge me this once." Indeed, no matter how much he doted on her, he dared not offend the Marquis of Ronghua's household. How could he dare to bypass the legitimate daughter of the family and marry off an unfavored concubine-born daughter instead? The legal mother also disapproved of her legitimate daughter marrying a cripple from the Chen family and was gently persuading her, "My precious daughter deserves to marry into a noble household and become the mistress. How could a cripple reeking of money ever be worthy of you?" Seeing that persuasion was not working, Zhao Jiao, disregarding the presence of the matchmakers sent by both families, pulled her father and legal mother aside to the study, where they whispered and discussed for quite some time. When they emerged, her father no longer opposed the idea of her legitimate sister marrying into the Chen family. After the matchmakers left, he looked at me with impatience and said condescendingly, "You can marry into the Marquis's household only because your legitimate sister yielded to you, allowing you to be registered under your legal mother's name so you could become a legitimate daughter and marry into the Marquis's household. Don't forget to support the family in the future." I humbly comply. Zhao Jiao looked at me with a triumphant air. "In this life, it's your turn to be despised and humiliated, while I will become the mother of the nation." I pretended not to understand Zhao Jiao's words. "What are you saying, dear sister?" Zhao Jiao said impatiently. "Even if I explain, you wouldn't understand. Just know that from now on, you'll be begging for a living at my feet." I lowered my head in agreement, afraid she would see the smile I couldn't suppress on my face. No more work, no more serving a husband. The days of lying back and enjoying wealth and luxury have finally come to me, in this life. The task of being bled for the Chen family as a medicinal test subject will be left to my elder sister. And what's more, my elder sisters did not know that the matchmaker sent by the Chen family was actually a member of the Chen family. Chen Jin, that man, is extremely sensitive by nature, and after losing his leg, he cannot bear to hear the word cripple. In my previous life, my elder sister, in front of the matchmaker, mocked me, saying I was only fit to marry a cripple reeking of money. After I married into the family, I suffered greatly because of those words. This time, it was the legitimate sister's turn to taste the bitter fruit of being called a disabled person reeking of copper stench by our stepmother. Half a month later, Zhao Jiao and I got married at the same time. As the beloved daughter of our stepmother and father, the legitimate sister naturally had a generous dowry. Additionally, since the Chen family was a merchant household, the betrothal gifts were exceedingly lavish. Stepmother, fearing that Zhao Jiao might suffer in the Chen family, even included the Chen family's betrothal gifts in the dowry, making it so extravagant that it could be described as a procession of red dowry boxes stretching for 10 miles. On the contrary, my dowry consisted of just 2 loads in total. Such shabbiness truly embarrassed the Marquis's household, as Zhao Jiao was about to step into the bridal sedan. She covered her mouth with a light laugh at the sight of my meager dowry. "Sister, your blessings are yet to come." I smiled but said nothing. I had long known of my father's favoritism. Without expectations, there naturally would be no disappointment. The bridal sedan chair entered the Ronghua Marquis manor. Just as in the previous life, the heir of the Marquis did not appear. I performed the wedding ceremony to heaven and earth alone, after being escorted to the bridal chamber. I waited until the hour of high 9 to 11 p.m., but no one came, so I lifted the bridal veil, washed my face, and went to rest. The next day when I woke up, I was quite startled to find someone lying beside me. Recognizing it was the heir, He Chenin, I breathed a sigh of relief and tried to get out of bed by stepping over him, but he, still half asleep, grabbed my hand. "It's still early, lie with me a while longer." Trapped in He Chenin's embrace and unable to move, I had to gently remind him. "Husband, it's not early anymore. We still have to serve tea to mother and the Marquis." Perhaps annoyed by my chatter, He Chenin sat up irritably and ran a hand through his hair. "Husband," he glanced at me, pulled a dagger from the bedside cabinet, and stared at me as he slowly, menacingly, drew the blade from its sheath. I asked him calmly, "Does my husband wish to change clothes?" He Chenin scoffed, then disinterestedly used the dagger to prick his finger, smearing the bead of blood onto the bridal handkerchief. I bandaged him, and he didn't object. Just as I was about to go out to serve tea to my mother, a servant from He Chenin's side came looking for him, saying someone from the west courtyard was asking for him. Without a word, He Chenin left me behind and went off. When the lady of Ronghua Manor saw me coming alone to serve tea, she seemed already accustomed to it and didn't say much. She had her tea, gave me a red envelope, and then dismissed me, back in the courtyard. The sudden idleness felt somewhat unfamiliar. In the mansion, I used to serve my stepmother at meals and listen to the rules every day. My stepsister, especially, couldn't bear to see me idle and would often have me embroider things for her, whether there was a need or not. In my previous life, I was married into the Chen family, where they extracted the blood from my heart and forced me to test countless medicines as a human guinea pig. Now, I have truly found myself with free time. After only a moment of confusion, I brewed a pot of tea and started reading. Enjoying this leisurely time, He Chenin left that day and never came back. Until the return visit, there was still no sign of him. I had already expected it. And since the gifts for the return visit were thoughtfully prepared by the Marquis of Ronghua's wife, I didn't feel particularly disappointed. What surprised me was that Chen Jin actually accompanied my elder sister on her return visit. This never happened in my previous life, because of my legitimate sister's remark that I was only fit to marry a cripple reeking of money. Chen Jin ordered countless steel needles to be driven into my legs. I could barely walk normally, let alone return to my family home. Seeing me return alone, my legitimate sister wore an expression of smug vindication. "Oh, why have you come back by yourself, sister? Didn't you bring the prince consort along?" Even a thick layer of powder couldn't hide her haggard appearance, yet she still found the energy to mock me. "Oh, I see, surely it's because you couldn't keep the prince consort's heart, right?" She was about to continue mocking me, but upon catching sight of Chen Jin's impatient expression, she fell silent, lowering her head and meekly pushing his wheelchair through the door. Taking advantage of the banquet not yet starting, the legal wife took my half-sister aside for a private talk. I also seized the opportunity to return to my chamber to fetch the bracelet my mother had left me. No sooner had I entered than the door to my chamber was shut. I turned around abruptly, only to see Chen Jin staring at me with a sinister glare. He maneuvered his wheelchair closer and asked with a playful tone, "Why didn't you marry into my family instead?" I was suddenly startled. "He has also been reborn." Perhaps noticing the surprise on my face, Chen Jin raised an eyebrow and said, "Second, miss. You seem quite surprised to see me." Suppressing the turmoil in my heart, I frowned at him. "This is my private chamber. Why is my brother-in-law here?" Chen Jin maneuvered his wheelchair right in front of me, staring at me with a half-smile, his words full of probing. "A mere concubine-born daughter. Yet you stepped over your legitimate sister to marry into that noble Marquis mansion. Second miss, you truly have impressive tactics. I pressed my lips together. Feeling a deep-seated fear of Chen Jin that went straight to the bone, thinking of his methods, I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. I clenched the palm hidden in my sleeve, lowered my gaze, and said, "It is the parent's command and the matchmaker's words. I do not understand what you mean, brother-in-law. Though my words may carry little weight, I am still aware that your presence here today is improper by etiquette." I turned sideways and made a gesture of invitation. "I beg you, brother-in-law, not to disgrace the honor of both families, please." I bet Chen Jin still dares not to turn against the Marquis of Ronghua's household and my Zhao family. Although my father is the Vice Minister of Personnel, he holds the roster of all officials. Matters such as performance reviews and transfers all pass through the Ministry of Personnel. If Chen Jin wishes to secure his position as Crown Prince, I bet he will have to keep a low profile until he fully recovers. Otherwise, in his previous life, he wouldn't have gone to such lengths to conceal and obstruct, using the excuse that a day apart feels like 3 years to prevent me from returning home. The world praises his deep affection, but they don't realize he has the fangs of a venomous snake. It's worse than death. Seeing that I had given the order to leave, Chen Jin let out a light scoff. Just as he was about to step out, he sneered, "We'll meet again, Zhao Ying," watching him leave. I breathed a sigh of relief. I closed my eyes, wondering what to do next, when suddenly a gust of wind rushed toward me. I instinctively dodged, and Zhao Jiao's slap missed its mark. "You dare dodge!" Zhao Jiao, having failed to slap me, screamed and raised her hand to strike again. "You shameless wretch, coveting your own sister's husband." I grabbed her hand and flung it away, frowning as I said, "Rest assured, dear sister, I have no interest in the Chen family. I wish you and your brother-in-law a century of harmony and eternal unity. May you be locked together forever and never come out to bring harm to others." Zhao Jiao gave me a suspicious glance, trying to gauge the truth of my words. Then, as if she had thought of something, she sneered, "Short-sighted fool, fine. You just keep guarding your beloved prince. As for the Chen family, don't even dream of it in this lifetime." I knew Zhao Jiao was mocking me for only seeing the wealth of the Marquis of Ronghua's household, laughing at my ignorance that Chen Jin would one day become the crown prince. She laughed at my short-sightedness. "Ha, I hope she can endure until the day she becomes the crown princess." Chen Jin, now mindful of the bridal return visit, did not take the blood from her heart. From now on, she will get to taste the bitterness of having her heart's blood drawn every day. Upon returning to the Marquis of Ronghua's residence, as soon as I stepped out of the carriage, I ran into my husband, who had been missing for several days, carefully helping a beauty alight from her carriage at the main entrance. The beauty, upon first seeing me, seemed startled, like a frightened little rabbit. Hiding behind He Chenin and refusing to come out, He Chenin pulled her into his arms to comfort her. Frowning at me with a tone of displeasure, "Where have you been?" My maid Xiaodao couldn't stand it and was about to speak up for me, but I stopped her. "Husband, are you well?" I bowed to He Chenin before responding with a smile. "Today is the day for returning to my parents' home, and I just came back. It's quite a coincidence to run into you and my sister at the door." Hearing me mention the visit to my parents' home, He Chenin looked somewhat uncomfortable. "I didn't accompany you for the visit, that was my fault," I said considerately. "It's all right, I'm sure you had important matters to attend to." "I understand." He Chenin coughed awkwardly a couple of times. "As long as you understand, let's go inside." "All right, you go first, my lord," I said obediently. He Chenin escorted the little beauty inside, while I followed behind with the fuming Xiao Dao. It wasn't until we returned to our courtyard that Xiao Dao pouted and said, "The young master treats you like this, and you're not even angry." I glanced at her and was about to speak when He Chenin arrived, followed by a servant carrying 2 boxes. "I didn't mean to let you return to your family alone, but Shira was unwell, so I accompanied her to the Medicine King Valley to seek treatment," He Chenin said, signaling the servant to set down 2 boxes, and added, "The jewelry in this box and the land deeds and shops in that one are my compensation to you." "Is there really such a good thing?" I smiled and said, "Husband, don't worry, I am not an unreasonable person. Naturally, my sister's health is more important, and I won't dwell on these matters." He Chenin's tone was somewhat hesitant. "You aren't angry?" I widened my eyes slightly, as if quite surprised. "Harmony in the family leads to prosperity in all endeavors. I am not the jealous type. Does my husband think I am someone who can't tell right from wrong?" He Chenin awkwardly rubbed his nose. No, I'm just glad you're not angry. He was about to say something more to me when someone came to report from outside the door, saying that someone from the west courtyard was looking for him. He Chenin had just opened his mouth to speak when I cut him off. My sister is unwell and needs someone the most right now. Please go, my lord, I will be fine. Then I'll go. He Chenin hesitated for a moment, but still left. Xiao Dao pouted angrily. Aunt Xia is clearly doing this on purpose. How can you not be angry, madam? How could I not know that Aunt Xia deliberately called him away on the second day of the wedding, not letting him accompany me back to my parents' home? Silly Xiao Dao, why be angry about this? Flipping through the deeds and shop titles He Chenin had given me as compensation, I said with a smile, think about it, no need to serve a man, with money to rely on. And any child Aunt Xia gives birth to will still have to call me the legal mother. Without risking my life in childbirth, I can still have children and grandchildren around my knees. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Xiao Dao scratched her head, as if I had confused her. That seems to make sense. Lady Rongho learned that I had encountered He Chenin and concubine Xia at the main gate. To console me, she also sent over several sets of head ornaments and a few shops. The next day, she even wanted to hand over the management authority of the Marquis's household to me, but I declined, citing my youth and inability to command the servants. The butler must be so tired. Anyway, the authority of the housekeeper won't fall into concubine Xia's hands, so what does it matter whether it's in my hands or not? If it really came into my hands, who knows what kind of trouble that concubine Xia would stir up? Why should I bring trouble upon myself? The Marchioness of Ronghua originally intended to hand over the household management authority to me as a form of compensation. Seeing that I truly did not wish to take it on, she compensated me with 2 shops instead before letting the matter rest. Naturally, I gladly accepted the shops that were offered to me. Looking at the exquisite hair ornaments and the shops the Marchioness of Ronghua had pressed into my hands, Xiao Dao seemed to have an epiphany. Madam, I think I understand what you mean now. With clothes handed to you and meals served to your mouth, isn't life sweet when you don't have to work or serve a man? Why fight for favor? Favor may not be worth fighting for, but powerful connections are a must. Although the Marchioness of Ronghua had exempted me from the daily morning and evening greetings, I still dutifully went to pay my respects every day and attended to her during meals. I even took care of her without rest when she fell ill, handling everything personally, even going so far as to copy scriptures with my own blood. Through these efforts, I managed to turn the Marchioness's 3 parts of politeness into genuine affection. One day, after I had served the Marchioness her medicinal soup, she took my hand and advised, I know you are a filial child, but you should also devote some of your attention to your husband. As women, isn't our purpose to seek children for support? Just as she said this, He Chenin entered. Is mother feeling better today? The Marchioness of Ronghua patted my hand. Thanks to your wife's attentive care, I have greatly improved. He Chenin looked at me and sincerely said, You've worked hard, my lady. Serving mother is my duty. And besides, I smiled and looked at the Marchioness of Ronghua with an admiring gaze. Mother has seen and experienced so much. I am willing to listen to your teachings. No one dislikes being praised. Upon hearing this, the Marchioness of Ronghua grinned from ear to ear. This child, the Marchioness of Ronghua called He Chenin to her side, placed our hands together, and said with a meaningful tone, Your wife has been working hard lately. You should take good care of her tonight. I noticed a flicker of hesitation on He Chenin's face, so I spoke up first. Mother, your daughter-in-law is not tired. My husband must have important matters to attend to. We must not disturb him from his duties. Upon hearing this, a complex expression flashed in He Chenin's eyes. Before he could speak, the Marchioness of Ronghua glared at him without hesitation. Day in and day out, what could possibly keep you so busy? Could anything be more important than having an heir? Of the 3 unfilial acts, the gravest is to have no descendants. Seeing that the Marchioness of Ronghua was growing angry, He Chenin had no choice but to agree. Late at night, He Chenin entered my courtyard with a furrowed brow. I suppose the commotion from the west courtyard was quite intense. I said understandingly, Go ahead, husband, I will keep my lips sealed about your mother's side, but you must go under the cover of night and return early, so no one sees you, otherwise your mother might be displeased. He Chenin looked at me with a complicated expression. Aren't you going to ask me to stay? I smiled bitterly and said, I may keep my husband's person, but I cannot keep his heart. Since it is so, it is better to follow my husband's wishes. As long as you are happy, that is enough. He Chenin pursed his lips, as if explaining to me, Shira's illness has not yet fully recovered. The physician said she must not experience excessive joy, anger, sorrow, or happiness. I will go check on her. I'm sorry to trouble you. I shook my head. I am not troubled. To be able to stay by my husband's side is already my blessing. I urged him, husband, please go quickly, since the physician said that younger sister must not be overly emotional. Do not let her worry too much because you came to see me today. Hearing this, Xianxia pursed his lips and left. I didn't notice that he seemed somewhat upset. Although the lady has no intention of competing for favor, isn't it also a good thing to have the heir's affection? Xiaodao was puzzled. The young master rarely stays overnight, yet you're pushing him away to that side. What's the point? What was he after? Of course, it was to take advantage of his guilt and a bit of genuine affection. Xianxia sneaked back to my courtyard for the sake of the one in the west courtyard, afraid that she would be punished by the Marquis of Ronghua's wife. But the one in the west courtyard doesn't know that. With all this back and forth, isn't it just asking for trouble? That day, as I was just about to head to the courtyard of the Marquis Ronghua's wife, I was stopped by that concubine Xia as I passed by the lotus pond. Seeing me now, she had completely lost the frightened demeanor she had that day, tilting her chin up and sneering coldly. You have some tricks up your sleeve, don't you? Do you think that just because you coax Anlang into your room every day, he actually has you in his heart? She moved closer to me, curling her lips into a smirk. Do you believe that with just one move from me, Anlang will utterly despise you? With those words, before I could even open my mouth to respond, she turned around and jumped into the lotus pond. The maid beside her shouted loudly, "Help! The mistress has pushed our lady into the lotus pond. Help, someone!" As soon as she finished speaking, a figure suddenly plunged into the lotus pond. Who else could it be but that scoundrel Xianxia? I had someone help pull the two of them up. No sooner had we come ashore than Aunt Xia nestled into Xianxia's arms, biting her lower lip as she looked at me, her eyes rimmed red. "Madam, I am but a lowly concubine. I cannot affect your status. I beg you, let me stay by Anlang's side." Tears welled in her eyes as she gazed pitifully at Xianxia. "Even if I must serve as a slave or a maid, I am willing." She didn't notice the strange look in Xianxia's eyes. I looked at her with mixed feelings and reminded her, "Aunt Xia, your husband saved you so promptly. Is it possible that he happened to be nearby and saw the whole thing?" Her pupils suddenly contracted. "How is that possible?" "This is how it happened. In the morning, I helped Xianxia change his clothes, and invited him to dine together at the residence of the Marquis of Ronghua's wife. Husband, it seems you haven't dined at mother's residence for a long time. She is now much better. If you have no urgent matters, why not accompany me to her courtyard to have a meal with her? Moreover, if she sees how affectionate we are, it might ease her mind a little." I knew he had promised to have a meal with the one in the west courtyard, so seeing his hesitation, I pressed further. "Does my husband not wish to openly visit our sister's courtyard anymore?" Xianxia frowned at me. "Do you have a plan?" I smiled. "It is a good thing for my husband to be affectionate with our sister. But if you neglect mother because of her, wouldn't that be what people call forgetting one's mother after taking a wife? If this goes on, how do you think mother will feel about her? It's just a matter of my husband having to appease both sides." Just like that, I managed to persuade Xianxia, and he agreed to have lunch at the residence of the Marquis of Ronghua's wife. As we approached the lotus pond, I realized I had forgotten the calming incense I had prepared for the Marquis of Ronghua's wife, so I asked Xianxia to wait for me in the pavilion above the rockery while I went back to fetch it. No one could have anticipated that upon my return, I would be intercepted by concubine Xia, leading to the self-directed drama she proceeded to stage. Concubine Xia, seeing Xianxia looking at her with a strange expression, quickly explained through tears, "Anlang, I didn't mean to. I was just so afraid of losing you." With tearful eyes, she said, "Before the mistress entered the household, you always stayed with me, but now you've started spending nights in her courtyard too. I am all alone in this world. If even you, Anlang, don't want me, then I have no choice but to die." Concubine Xia, still crying, tried to throw herself into the lotus pond but was stopped by Xianxia, seeing that Aunt Xia was about to continue her drama of threatening to kill herself. I interrupted, "Husband, Aunt Xia is unwell. It would be best to take her back to the courtyard so both of you can change your clothes first." With that, I instructed Xiaodao, "Quickly have the kitchen prepare 2 bowls of ginger soup and send them to the west courtyard. Don't let the young master and Aunt Xia catch a cold." As Xianxia seemed about to say something, I reassured him, "Don't worry, I'll handle things with mother. Go and change your clothes quickly. Thank you." Xianxia pressed his lips together, thanked me, and carried Aunt Xia back to the west courtyard. That night, Xianxia stayed in the west courtyard. I suppose he was coaxed into a better mood by concubine Xia. Xiaodao pouted angrily, "The air is too biased. He clearly knows that concubine Xia framed you, yet he didn't punish her at all, and you're so magnanimous, even covering up for them." I smiled but said nothing. Xiao Dao didn't know that a person's affection could one day be completely exhausted, and guilt, sometimes, could be used to my advantage. The next day, He Chenin came to my courtyard and explained on behalf of Aunt Xia, "I apologize on Xia's behalf. She's not a bad person by nature, it's just that she cares about me too much, which is why she made a mistake, and as for mother, thank you for covering up for her a little." He Chenin's expression was somewhat complicated. "In any case, thank you," I smiled warmly at him. "If you really want to thank me, how about accompanying me to the princess's spring banquet?" Hearing this, although He Chenin was a bit surprised, he still agreed. On the day of the spring banquet, on the way to the princess's residence, He Chenin pursed his lips and said, "You could have asked for something else, as long as it wasn't excessive." I would have granted it. In his view, attending events like the spring banquet was a common occurrence. There was no need to ask him. I could attend on my own. As for me, I lowered my head in embarrassment and explained somewhat shyly, "This is my first time attending such a banquet, and I was afraid of making a fool of myself by not knowing the proper etiquette. That's why I begged my husband to accompany me. This time I've become familiar with it, so I won't trouble you again, my husband." He Chengan seemed somewhat incredulous, frowning as he looked at me. "You've never attended such a banquet before." I lowered my head, twisting the handkerchief in my hands, my tone tinged with a hint of melancholy. "I am a daughter born of a concubine, and originally had no right to attend banquets. The legal wife only has eyes for her own daughter. How could she ever think of taking us out to see the world? Such matters can easily be found out with a little inquiry." I bit my lip. If I weren't afraid of failing to fit in with the other ladies and embarrassing the Marquis's household, I would never dare trouble you to make this trip. "My lord, it's okay," He Chenin reassured me, saying, "You are now the wife of the heir to the Marquis of Ronghua. There will be many such banquets in the future. The more you attend, the more naturally you'll blend in with the other ladies. There's no need to force it. Besides, I'm here with you." Hearing this, I happily took his hand. My tone tinged with a bit of dependence. "You treat me so well, my husband." He Chenin looked at me holding his hand and was taken aback for a moment. I quickly blushed and let go of his hand, stammering an explanation. I was just too happy. I didn't mean to offend you, my husband." He Chenin looked at me and sighed. "Between us, what is there to say about offense? My lady, you don't need to be so cautious around me. As husband and wife, we are one. I will give you the respect you deserve." With tears in my eyes, I thanked him. "Thank you, my husband." He Chengan wiped away my tears, his tone softening. "All right, we're almost at the princess's residence. Quickly tidy yourself up so no one sees and laughs." I nodded obediently in agreement. Entering the princess's mansion, He Chenin indeed took me to socialize with others and introduced my identity to them. He also thoughtfully reminded me of some small details that outsiders wouldn't know. Other ladies teased him for not being able to leave my side, but he just smiled and asked them to take good care of me. This drew envious glances from the onlookers, who remarked that one should marry a man like He Chenin. With He Chenin's help, I was able to exchange a few pleasantries with the other ladies over drinks. However, things took a turn after the crown prince arrived at the spring banquet. A group of black-clad assassins emerged from nowhere, intent on killing the crown prince. The scene quickly descended into chaos. He Chenin quickly led me to a corner, told me to hide well, and then went to assist the guards of the princess's residence. I caught sight of a black-clad figure ambushing He Chenin from behind and rushed forward. "Watch out." I pushed He Chenin aside, taking a sword strike for him. As I passed out, I heard him cry out my name in shock. That really hurt. When I woke from my coma and saw He Chenin at first glance, I knew that taking this sword strike wasn't in vain. "My husband." I struggled to sit up. Seeing that I wanted to sit up, He Chenin quickly stopped me. "Lie down quickly, don't move around, be careful of your wound." He instructed Xiao Dao, "Madam is awake, go quickly and fetch the physician." Xiao Dao hurried away. He Chenin gave me water to drink. After setting down the cup, he looked at me hesitantly and said, "Why did you take that sword strike for me?" The physician said if it had been a few inches off, you would have died. As if I had done something wrong, I bit my lip and explained softly, I didn't think that much at the time, but, at the moment the sword struck, what I thought was, thank goodness it wasn't my husband who got hurt. Because it really hurts so much." He Chenin sighed. "Why are you so foolish?" I lowered my head. "I'm not foolish, I just follow my heart." A flicker of complexity passed through his eyes. After that day, He Chenin ordered many gifts to be sent to me. and while my wound was still healing, he stayed in my courtyard all night, saying it was to take care of me. The West Courtyard sent for him several times, but he sent them all away. Xiao Dao was overjoyed by this. Thinking that I had finally weathered the storm and seen the moonlight, little did she know that He Chenin was only doing this to make up for the sword strike I took for him. Secondly, I was injured for his sake. If He Chenin were to abandon me again and go to the West Courtyard, not only he but likely the entire Ronghua Marquis estate would face public criticism, accused of favoring the concubine over the wife. In that case, what good outcome could the concubine he dotes on possibly have? She would surely be dealt with by the Marquis estate to quell the rumors. Unfortunately, such an obvious reasoning is lost on those in the West Courtyard, listening to the servant's report. I knew that Lady Xia was about to lose her patience. By the time my wound was almost healed, He Chenin had already stayed in my courtyard for nearly 7 days. That evening, as He Chenin was teaching me to play chess, the nanny from the Western Courtyard came again to summon him, calling out at the courtyard gate, "Young master, Our Lady is suffering from severe chest pain. Please come and take a look." Such words, over the past few days, had essentially been the same old story with a different twist. He Chenin held the white piece between his fingers, his brow tightly furrowed, clearly wavering. I placed the piece back into the chess box and gently urged, "Husband, you should go check on her. I'm almost fully recovered, it's nothing serious." He Chenin seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He tossed the piece back into the box and reassured me, "I'll go take a look and come back to keep you company later." I smiled and agreed. All right. Until the hour of high, He Chenin still had not returned. The maid in the courtyard brought the medicine I drink daily and placed it on the table. A moment later, I instructed Xiao Dao to extinguish the lamp and went to the bed to rest. Shortly after, a faint sound came from outside the door, under the moonlight. A wisp of smoke drifted in and quickly dissipated in the room, covering my mouth and nose. I pulled out the hairpin from my hair and hid behind the curtain. The door creaked open and then closed as someone entered the inner chamber with stealthy footsteps. While the intruder leaned in to check the bed, I drove the hairpin fiercely into his neck. The man let out a sharp cry, clutched his throat, and collapsed to the ground. His scream caught the attention of the night watchwoman in the courtyard. And chaos erupted outside. "What happened?" He Chenin's voice came from outside. I rushed to the table and downed the bowl of drugged medicine in one gulp, timing it to the moment He Chenin pushed the door open. I threw myself into his arms. I killed someone. After saying that, my consciousness began to blur, and then I knew nothing more. When I woke up again, Xiao Dao was guarding the bedside with red, swollen eyes, and He Chenin was nowhere to be seen. What happened? I tried to sit up, my head still feeling dizzy, and Xiao Dao quickly helped me up, tearfully recounting what had happened after I fainted. That day, He Chenin returned from the West Courtyard and suddenly heard a man's scream. He pushed the door open and found that I had been drugged, and there was a dead stranger in my room. The incident alarmed Marquis Ronghua and his wife. Upon hearing that I had been drugged and that there was a man in my room, the Marchioness immediately recognized it as a scheme from the inner household. She flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. The investigation quickly led to the West Courtyard. Aunt Xia initially tried to deny everything, but the man who died in my room turned out to be the son of Aunt Xia's personal maid, a notorious gambler. Without the maid's knowledge, Aunt Xia had her own maid bribe the gambler to ruin my reputation. Although he was a gambler, he still valued his life. How would he dare to defile the heir's wife of the Marquis's household? He never agreed, but Aunt Xia told him that she would have someone tamper with my medicine. If it succeeded, with a noble lady like me in his grasp, wouldn't getting as much money as he wanted be just a matter of a word? If it failed, the Marquis's household would at most tie him up as a thief. By then, everyone's attention would be on me, the heir's wife, and she could quietly set him free, and nothing would come of it. The nanny had known about the plan, but she never expected that the man Xia Yinyang had found was actually her own son. Now that her own son was dead, not only did the nanny not cover up for Xia Yinyang, but she also revealed that Xia Yinyang's act of saving He Chenin years ago had been staged by Xia Yinyang herself. When He Chenin was young, he went boating with a friend. Xia Yinyang noticed that the two had an extraordinary demeanor and were dressed in high-quality clothing and accessories. After inquiring, she learned that both were from noble families, and she began to scheme. Aunt Xia incited her uncle, who wanted to marry her off to a butcher's family, to have her uncle steer his boat to collide with He Chenin's vessel. After He Chenin fell into the water, Aunt Xia went to rescue him, leading to physical contact and the debt of a life-saving favor. Following this incident, He Chenin took her into his household, and Aunt Xia by claiming she had fallen ill from the rescue in the water, won He Chenen's heart. How could such a petty trick escape the notice of the Marchioness of Ronghua? Yet, in full view of everyone, it was a fact that concubine Xia had rescued He Chenen. Arguing too much with the Xia family would only give the Marquis's political opponents an excuse to claim that the Marquis's household looked down on the Xia family. It wouldn't be good if they then attacked the Marquis's household for being ungrateful. Thus, the Marchioness of Ronghua held her nose and agreed to take her into the household. The Marchioness of Ronghua had disliked concubine Xia for many years, and this was one of the reasons. After hearing Xiao Dao's words, I was somewhat dumbfounded. I never expected there would be such an outcome. And what about the heir? I asked. Concubine Xia was sent to a manor in the suburbs. And the heir also left in low spirits. No one knows where he went. Xiao Dao pouted, somewhat indignant. You have no idea. Even after concubine Xia's scheme was exposed, the heir still refused to believe she could do such a thing. Xiao Dao couldn't hide her schadenfreude. Who would have thought even the life-saving favor was something concubine Xia calculated? The heir's face turned ashen on the spot. Xiao Dao was about to tell me more when He Chenen returned reeking of alcohol. I signaled for Xiao Dao to withdraw. He Chenen sat drunkenly by the round table, his eyes red as he asked me, "Tell me, haven't I been good enough to her? Why did she treat me like this?" I walked over and silently comforted him without saying a word. He Chenen was drunk. He gripped my hand and asked, "Will you leave me?" I shook my head. "No, haha, good, good." He Chenen, drunk and acting wild, picked me up and laid me on the bed. As he pressed me down, he asked again, "Then will you scheme against me?" I met his eyes and still replied, "No." He Chenen laughed, but bit my lip hard. "Liar," I whimpered in pain, and he said no more, giving me no chance to speak. All night long, we were entwined in a desperate passion. From that day on, He Chenen and I became a true husband and wife. After learning the news of our consummation, the Marchioness of Ronghua took me under her wing, personally teaching me how to manage the household affairs and how to recognize and employ the right people. She also taught me the preferences and concerns of the various noble ladies, one by one, guiding me on how to interact with them. I knew that I had finally secured my footing in the Marquis household. One day, while I was in my room going over the old accounts of the Marquis household that the Marchioness had entrusted to me, He Chenen came in and asked me to accompany him to the palace banquet that evening. It is said that the emperor has found the son of his first empress and is holding a palace banquet specifically to introduce him to everyone. What did you say? I accidentally knocked over the teacup. Lately, I've been so preoccupied with the affairs of the Ronghua Marquis's residence that I completely forgot about Chen Jin and the others. I never expected that Chen Jin would reunite with the emperor at this very moment. Isn't this supposed to happen a year later? How could it be so much earlier? He Chenen put away the account book for me and said with a furrowed brow, "Why are you so excited?" It is said that on the day of the assassination attempt at the Grand Princess's residence, the emperor was actually present. Unaware of his incognito presence, the crowd witnessed the crisis unfold. The son of the former empress took a sword for the emperor, who then brought him back to the palace for treatment. This led to their subsequent recognition. He shifted the topic and asked me to guess. "Do you know who that person was?" I shook my head uneasily. "Never expected it." "Did you?" He Chenen teased. "This person is your own brother-in-law." After saying this, He Chenen seemed to have a sudden realization. At the time, I found it strange. How could my father-in-law be willing to marry his legitimate daughter to a merchant? Now that I think about it, he must have known the identity of the Chen family's son all along, right? It must be said, He Chenen hit the nail on the head. However, the one who knew Chen Jin's identity early on was my legitimate elder sister, Zhao Jiao. Father must have been convinced by my elder sister's story of rebirth as well. At the palace banquet, the main characters, Chen Jin and the emperor, had not yet arrived, but my father and the others were already there, being flattered by the crowd. "I was wondering why you married your daughter off to the Chen family's merchant son that day. It turns out he has the bearing of a true dragon. Minister Zhao, your vision is truly sharp." Father was extremely proud, and while putting on airs, he didn't forget to speak up for his legitimate daughter. "Oh, not at all. Not at all. It's my daughter who has good judgment." She saw at a glance that Chen Jin was no ordinary man and insisted on marrying no one but him. I sneered. They really doted on their legitimate daughter, didn't they? Even something as absurd as reincarnation, they were willing to believe. But as it turned out, they really did get their wish when Chen Jin was recognized by his ancestral family. The ladies and young misses on the women's side praised my legitimate sister for her good judgment after hearing my father's words. My legitimate sister, though looking pale and listless, was surrounded by flattery like the moon amidst stars. Her brows brimming with pride, her former close friend from her maiden days even took the chance to belittle me while praising her, glancing at me sideways and saying, "Our Jiao Jiao is kind-hearted and truly deserves such great fortune, unlike some who think they've picked up a treasure, eagerly rushing to marry into it, but in reality, pitifully destined to live as a widow." Xianxia walked over, took my hand, and looked at that person, saying, "So, Miss Wang, you must sleep under my bed every day, otherwise, how would you know the details of my private chamber affairs so clearly?" Miss Wang was left stammering by Xianxia's retort, and amid the laughter of others, she was so ashamed and angry that she covered her face and ran away. My elder sister, seeing that Xianxia not only brought me to the palace banquet but also defended me so openly in front of everyone, showing such affection, was so enraged that she nearly gritted her silver teeth to pieces. She said with a sarcastic tone, "They all say the heir has a beloved sweetheart. I was worried for my sister, but now that I see the two of you so harmonious, I can rest assured." Xianxia took my hand and said, "No need for Madam Chen to worry. The only one in my heart is naturally my consort." Without another word, ignoring my elder sister's dark expression, she led me to the banquet table. During the banquet, Xianxia was exceptionally attentive, serving me dishes and pouring tea, making others envious. Many people already admired the affection between the two of us. My elder sister's face grew even darker. At this moment, the emperor and Chen Jin appeared. After everyone paid their respects, I stole a glance at Chen Jin and noticed that although his appearance had been restored, he was still seated in a wheelchair. I supposed it was because the toxins had not yet been fully cleared. Just as I was thinking this, I unexpectedly met Chen Jin's gaze. His sinister eyes always sent chills down my spine. I was afraid Chen Jin would see through my disguise and discover that I too was reborn, so I feigned a bit of drunkenness and told Xianxia I needed some fresh air in the Imperial garden. I declined Xianxia's offer to accompany me, never expecting to be followed. Just as I reached a corner of the Imperial garden, I heard an arrogant voice shout, "Zhao Ying, stop right there." I turned around to see my elder sister, supported by palace attendants, hurrying after me. It was only a few steps, yet my elder sister looked as if she had walked on the edge of a knife, drenched in sweat and wearing an expression of pain. I naturally knew the reason for her condition, but I couldn't understand why she insisted on catching up despite the agony. "Are you looking for me, sister?" Supported by the palace maid, Zhao Jiao stood before me, lifting her chin to question me. "Why didn't you bow when you saw me just now?" "Just because of this," I sighed. Why must she be like this? To free myself from her pestering, I performed the customary family greeting, "Elder sister, may you be well." With that, "May I take my leave?" To my surprise, she flew into a rage and scolded me. "How dare you? How dare you look down on me? What do you mean, elder sister? You asked me to bow, and I did. How is that looking down on you? I didn't want to cause any more trouble in the palace." But my elder sister raised her chin and said, "I want you to kneel and kowtow to me." "Impossible." I frowned at her. "Eldest sister, do not speak recklessly and bring trouble upon yourself. The ceremonial bow of kneeling is not something just anyone can rightfully receive." My eldest sister couldn't care less. She had waited so long for Chen Jin to be recognized by the family. How could she not flaunt it and show off in front of me? Attendants. The consort does not understand the rules, teach her properly. Upon hearing my elder sister's words, the palace attendants moved to seize me, but were interrupted by two sharp rebukes. "How dare you? Stop it!" One after the other, they came from Xianxia and Chen Jin. By the time Chen Jin was pushed forward by the attendants to stand before us, Xianxia had already reached my side. He shielded me behind him and sneered, "Madam Chen, such bold words. Aren't you afraid the wind might cut your tongue? Should my consort kneel and bow to you?" In ordinary circumstances, even ministers meeting the emperor only need to perform a respectful bow. Only on formal occasions is the full kowtow ceremony required. Who do you think you are? In her previous life, my legitimate elder sister married Xianxia. Out of jealousy towards concubine Xia, she often quarreled with him, so she never received any favor from Xianxia. Now, seeing Xianxia defending me so fiercely, she was driven mad with envy and blurted out recklessly in front of everyone, "Just because I am the future crown princess." As soon as Zhao Jiao uttered these words, Chen Jin's face instantly darkened. Without letting her finish, he scolded, "Silence." But Zhao Jiao, stubbornly holding on to her pride, pointed at me and declared, "What's wrong with making her kneel before me?" "Shut up." Chen Jin, in a fit of rage, scolded the palace attendant. What are you standing there for? Gag her and take her away. He Chenin glanced Chen Jin up and down, let out a cold laugh, but his words were directed at Zhao Jiao. What grand ambitions you have, Madam Chen. Then wait until you become the queen before coming to demand grand gifts from us. He put his arm around my shoulder. Let's go. After that day, there was no news of the emperor announcing to the world his intention to acknowledge the son of the former empress. I was not surprised. The palace is full of the emperor's eyes and ears. Zhao Jiao's words and actions in the Imperial garden that day must have reached the emperor's ears without missing a single detail. Emperors have always been suspicious by nature, even if he had previously felt heartache and guilt over Chen Jin's years of exile among the common people. Zhao Jiao's words had completely sealed Chen Jin's fate. If Chen Jin had no ambition to covet the throne, how could the person by his side repeatedly refer to herself as the future crown princess and the future mother of the nation? In this way, Chen Jin's life-saving act back then seemed to have ulterior motives. Not to mention, Chen Jin couldn't withstand scrutiny in the first place, if it weren't for the fact that he had been reborn. How would he have known about the assassins at the princess's residence that day, or the emperor's whereabouts? After all, Chen Jin was too impatient. On this day, my family sent a message to the Marquis of Ronghua's residence, saying that my father was ill and wished to see me. As a child, it was only right and proper for me to return home. He Chenin, fearing that my father and stepmother might blame me for my elder sister's affairs, volunteered to accompany me home. He said that, out of respect for him, my father and the others would not dare to give me too hard a time. Just as he was about to board the carriage, a servant brought He Chenin a brocade box. Inside was a lock of hair tied with a red string. With just one glance, He Chenin's expression changed instantly. Pressing his lips together, he said to me, "Please return home first. Madam, I will join you later." With those words, He Chenin ignored my attempts to stop him, mounted his horse, and rode straight away. I sighed, heading home alone once again. "You wretched creature, kneel down before me." As expected, the moment I stepped through the door, a teacup flew past my cheek and shattered on the floor. My father, who had sent word that he was ill, was now in a towering rage, demanding that I kneel. I lifted my gaze to scan my stepmother, who looked as if she wished to strangle me, then turned to him and calmly asked, "May I ask, Father, what wrong has your daughter done? How dare you even ask?" Father pointed a trembling finger at me, furious. "Your brother-in-law is the son of the late empress. He could have returned to the royal family, even had the chance to contend for the throne, yet you've ruined his chance to be recognized by his ancestors. How dare you ask what you've done wrong?" I frowned defiantly. "What does this have to do with me?" Father threw another teacup in front of me. "If you hadn't opposed your elder sister in the palace, how could she have misspoken and given others a handle to use against her?" Angering His Majesty, the shards of the teacup grazed my face, stinging slightly, yet I smiled. So Father also knows it was my elder sister who misspoke, but was it I who made her boast recklessly, claiming she would be the future crown princess, the future queen? Was it I who let her act arrogantly in the palace, demanding others kneel and bow to her? Father doesn't blame my sister for speaking without thinking, yet he blames me for opposing her. What kind of logic is that? With a sharp slap, Father cut off my words, leaving my cheek burning. "You insolent thing, how dare you talk back?" Father brushed his sleeve and glared at me, commanding, "Return to the Marquis' residence today and request to step down from your position. Go serve by your sister's side to make up for your mistake. When the matter is settled in the future, you will not be without rewards." He seemed to see through my thoughts and, not allowing me to refuse, added, "If you agree, I will elevate your aunt to the status of an equal wife and have her name entered into my Zhao family's genealogy. If you dare refuse, I will have someone dig up her grave, so that even in death she finds no peace." Hearing this, my eyes blazed with fury as I glared at him, gritting my teeth and agreeing. "I have only one condition." I gritted my teeth and said word by word, "After this is done, let my mother divorce you. From now on, the bond between father and daughter will be severed forever." Upon hearing that I not only wanted my mother to divorce him but also intended to cut ties with him completely, my father immediately flared up with anger and was about to scold me, but my stepmother stopped him. "I agree to it." My stepmother said. My father still wanted to say something, but my stepmother persuaded him, "After this is done, just let her go, since she is not of one heart with us. Keeping her here will only bring unrest to the household. It's better to part ways and each find peace." At the persuasion of my stepmother, my father finally granted my request. Upon returning to the Marquis of Ronghua's residence, just as Xiao Dao finished applying the egg to my face, He Chenin came back. As soon as he returned, he dismissed Xiao Dao. You may leave first, He Chenin frowned, looking somewhat preoccupied. And occasionally glanced at me as if he had something to say but hesitated. I sighed and asked, Husband, is there something you wish to discuss with me? He Chengan was silent for a moment, then pursed his lips and said, Concubine Xia is with child. I was thinking of bringing her back to rest during her pregnancy and make further arrangements after she gives birth. What do you think, my lady? I quietly looked at He Chengan for a long while, and just as he subconsciously furrowed his brow, I said softly, After all, it is your child, let her come back and be well taken care of. I had long known how could years of affection be so easily severed. Even if Aunt Xia's life-saving grace from back then was fake, the years of companionship that followed were certainly real. Now that Aunt Xia is pregnant again, no matter how angry He Chengan was, it should have all subsided by now. Aunt Xia has returned to the Ronghua Marquis mansion, still living in the west courtyard. Perhaps it was because she was sent away once, or perhaps she was afraid someone might harm the child in her womb. She has been much more low-key since her return this time. Apart from paying her respects to me and the lady of Ronghua Manor on the day she returned, she has been keeping to herself in the west courtyard ever since. No matter what, at this stage, I am truly relieved that she is not causing any trouble. My decision to allow Aunt Xia to return to the manor has greatly pleased the lady of Ronghua. After all, it's your husband's flesh and blood, it wouldn't be right to leave the child out in the cold. She patted my hand and comforted me, saying, Don't worry, I won't let her surpass you. I've discussed it with your husband. Once the child is born, we'll register it under your name. All right, I leave it to your decision. Mother, after some thought, I brought up to the Marquis of Ronghua's wife my plan to visit Baohua Temple on the 15th to offer incense. The Marchioness of Ronghua readily agreed and even suggested I pay respects to the goddess of childbirth. Praying for a child of my own, I bashfully agreed. Upon returning from Baohua Temple, I brought back a woman dressed in plain mourning clothes. The Marchioness of Ronghua inquired about her, and I explained that she was a poor soul selling herself to bury her father. The lady of Ronghua Manor probably knew what kind of life I had been living in the Zhao residence, so she agreed to let the person stay. That woman then became my personal maid along with Xiaodao. I looked at Aunt Xia and raised an eyebrow. You want me to accompany you to Baohua Temple? Aunt Xia had been back for so long, and aside from paying her respects to me on the day she returned, the next time we met, she actually begged me to accompany her to Baohua Temple to worship the Buddha. He Chenin explained on her behalf. Concubine Xia has been having frequent nightmares lately, and her mind is unsettled. The physician said that if this continues, it might harm the unborn child. When she learned that you had gone to Baohua Temple to pray for blessings, she wished for you to accompany her, just to ease her mind. I smiled and said, Concubine Xia asked me to go with her. Isn't she afraid I might do her harm? Concubine Xia bit her lip and looked at He Chenin. The heir said that you, madam, are kind-hearted and will surely treat me and the unborn child well. She lowered her gaze and added, the heir also said that once the child is born, it will be registered under the lady's name, so, the lady won't harm me. She looked at He Chenin. Moreover, the heir will accompany us that day. Upon hearing this, I agreed. If nothing goes wrong, something is about to go wrong, when a group of men in black, armed with knives, intercepted us on the way to Baohua Temple. He Chenin's face suddenly changed. The leader of the men in black said that someone had paid to have us killed. I suggested to He Chenin that we split up. Aunt Xia is pregnant and cannot move easily. You protect her and go to the temple for help, and I'll draw them away. With that, she took He Chenin's cloak and draped it over herself, pulling up the hood as she prepared to leap from the carriage, but He Chenin grabbed her arm. You'll die. I looked at him, my gaze resolute. So, husband, you must send someone to save me. I'll wait for you to come rescue me. I pulled up the hood and leaped from the carriage, running toward the woods. The men in black noticed me. One escaped over there. After them, running, I heard He Chenin calling my name, Zhao Ying. Opening my eyes and finding myself in the medicine room of the Chen Mansion's villa, I knew I had bet correctly. That group of men in black were sent by Chen Jin. Awake, only then did I notice Chen Jin crouching in the shadows of the corner. The moment I saw him, I felt a chill run down my spine. Don't let him see through the act. I pressed my lips together and looked at him. Where is this? How did I get here? Chen Jin evaded the question. Since the second young lady couldn't bear to part with the wealth and status of the Ronghua Marquis household, I had no choice but to have someone bring you here. I knew it. My father's insistence that I voluntarily leave my marriage had everything to do with Chen Jin. Brother-in-law, what do you mean by this? Where is my sister? I frowned. Moreover, it seems the emperor hasn't issued an edict allowing you to return to the family, has he? Chen Jin let out a scornful laugh and maneuvered his wheelchair closer. He reached out to approach me, but when I dodged, he wasn't angry and just chuckled. As long as I can stand up, what does it matter whether he acknowledges me or not? You want to usurp the throne. Chen Jin didn't deny it, and even smiled at me cheerfully. Yes, my mother was a general's daughter. Though she is dead, my maternal grandfather's influence still remains. If I can stand up, he would rather support me. The legitimate eldest prince with blood ties, than back another prince and risk future suspicion. Don't you think so? His eyes glinted with a bloodthirsty light as he toyed with the dagger, a cruel smile curling at the corner of his lips. In the last life, your heart's blood allowed me to stand. In this life, you will surely help me ascend the throne in full health and glory. I pressed my lips together and glared at him. If usurping the throne were so easy, the world would have been overturned long ago. Even if your grandfather is a general, how far is he from the capital? Do you think the emperor has no spies in the army? The moment the troops set out, they would be charged with treason long before reaching the capital. Do you really think he would just sit back and wait for you to march into the city? Chen Jin seemed surprised that I would challenge his treasonous ambitions and looked at me with great interest. Oh, you even know about that? Isn't that the truth? I said. Chen Jin laughed. Though you seem to be stalling, you're much smarter than your legitimate sister, at least able to exchange a few words with me. Mentioning his legitimate sister, a flicker of disgust passed through Chen Jin's eyes. Naturally, he despised her. If not for that legitimate sister, he would have long been smoothly entered into the Imperial Jade Register. Why take the path of rebellion? Perhaps in Chen Jin's eyes, I was already a dead man, so. He didn't hold back. It wouldn't hurt to tell you. Every year at the end of the year, the emperor holds a winter hunt in the royal hunting grounds. As it was the end of the year, some generals would request permission to return to the capital to reunite with their families. Before this, the rebellious soldiers would disguise themselves as refugees in various regions, occasionally dispersing in small groups near the capital, waiting only for the command to be used in seizing the throne. The capital is guarded by nothing more than the Imperial guards and the city defense troops, along with patrol camps. Therefore, my soldiers need not be numerous, only elite. Moreover, the emperor's winter hunt would never leave the capital undefended. At most, there would be around 3,000 men. At that time, all the princes will be present. Chen Jin's hand snapped through the air as if grasping the world itself. I only need to trap them like turtles in a jar. And I can capture them all in one fell swoop. So, that's why your father-in-law urged you to divorce quickly and become my medicine test subject. Chen Jin advanced with a dagger in hand. Now that you know my entire plan, it's time to heal me properly. When I ascend the throne in the future, I will grant you a place in my harem. Just as the dagger was about to pierce my heart, I closed my eyes and screamed. Chen Jin has already revealed the rebellion plan. If you don't come out now, I'm really going to die. With a clang, a sharp blade deflected the dagger Chen Jin had thrust toward me. A woman appeared before me, and who else could it be but the woman I had brought home that day to sell herself to bury her father? Chen Jin snapped back to reality, glaring at me with eyes wide in fury. You wretch, how dare you harm me? Guards, kill them both. Chen Jin maneuvered his wheelchair, trying to flee the medicine room. But the woman blocked the way with her sword. Although Chen Jin was in our hands, we were also surrounded by his men. Move aside. The woman, holding Chen Jin hostage, ordered the people surrounding the pharmacy to step back. Chen Jin pressed his lips together and remained silent, so his men did not move. Seeing this, the woman applied a bit more force, and the sharp blade sank into the flesh. Only when they saw Chen Jin bleeding did the crowd hesitantly take a few steps back. I pushed Chen Jin out of the pharmacy, and the woman tossed a signal flare to me with one hand. At the same time, Chen Jin shouted angrily, "Kill them!" The moment the dazzling flare shot into the sky, someone had already charged forward with a blade, disregarding Chen Jin's life or death. After all, rebellion is a capital offense. If they could kill us before reinforcements arrived, there might still be a chance to cover this up. Unfortunately, we came prepared. Chen Jin and his associates were all captured. After investigation, my father, my stepmother, and the others were all implicated and imprisoned. The Zhao residence was raided and confiscated. As for me, I was rewarded for exposing Chen Jin's rebellion and have since severed all ties with the Vice Minister of Personnel. The emperor not only did not blame me but also granted me the title of Junzhu, a noble rank for women, and specially permitted my mother to divorce the Vice Minister of Personnel. Completely separating me from the Zhao family, Ronghua Marquis Manor, He Chenin looked at me with a complicated expression, as if he couldn't understand how I had managed to connect with the emperor, and how Aunt Xia had managed to connect with Chen Jin and the others. Chen Jin's plot failed, and naturally, the fact that Aunt Xia had colluded with him could no longer be concealed. Aunt Xia was approached by Chen Jin's people after she was sent to the estate. Chen Jin promised Aunt Xia that he would get rid of me for her, so, in order to lure me into a trap, Aunt Xia lured He Chenin to see her with a lock of hair, then used a fake pregnancy to return to the Marquis of Ronghua's mansion. After learning that I had visited Baohua Temple, they decided to use Aunt Xia as bait and take action on the road to the temple. Even if I had no intention of diverting the assassins, they would have separated us and seized the chance to abduct me. But they never expected that I would walk right into their trap and single-handedly draw the assassins away. I don't care about Zhao Jiao. During the time she was used as a medicinal test subject, the steel nails driven into her feet and the daily extraction of heartblood were enough to ruin her body. She was no longer a threat, yet, I never expected she still had the ability to sneak into the Marquis of Ronghua's residence. That day, as I returned from the Marquis of Ronghua's residence, I heard a resentful voice behind me. "You wretch, drop dead, watch out." Immediately after, there was the sound of a blade piercing flesh. He Chenin swiftly pulled me into his embrace, taking the stab meant for me, but then he slowly slid to the ground. "Husband, I sent for a physician," and upon seeing that the wound wasn't in a fatal spot, I breathed a sigh of relief. "Let me go." Zhao Jiao, restrained by the rough-handed maids, was still screaming, "Zhao Ying, you wretch. You're nothing but a dog by my side. How dare you always have it better than me?" She struggled desperately, vowing to perish together with me. "If I get another chance, I will surely trample you underfoot." Greed, hatred, and obsession. To be reborn once was already a stroke of luck. She does not cherish what she has, yet she harbors greedy thoughts, fantasizing about that unattainable status. Pitiful, pathetic, lamentable. Break her legs and hand her over to the mistress for punishment. I looked at her. "You have no chance anymore. The Marquis of Ronghua has only He Chenin as her sole heir." Zhao Jiao, a fugitive from the rebel faction, instead of hiding properly, insisted on walking right into the trap by coming here on her own. She even injured He Chenin. The Marquis of Ronghua will not let her off. She will surely have a fitting end awaiting her. Why should I dirty my own hands? Later, I became pregnant. He Chenin also gradually settled down. We spent our lives together, sharing 3 meals and 4 seasons, staying by each other's side forever.